Baby boomers are the biggest lying generation of the century. No generation has come any close to them when we're talking about lying. They created basically the biggest scam of the century, and we all believed, we all bought it, and now we see how shitty this generation was. And it's not only one thing, they created like so many lies that basically protect them on a daily basis. The first one is about the fact that they didn't accept technology. They simply refused to learn simple things such as using PowerPoint, using Excel, using some specific tools for their job. They simply started saying that they were too old for technology, that technology was for young people and they shouldn't learn technology. But when technology started becoming a thing on the working environment, they were not so old back then. Boomers might be old now, but in the beginning of the 2000s or in the 90s, boomers, they were like 38 years old, 40, 45, and that's very young to learn things. There's no way that a 40 years old will have any problem learning new stuff because they are like 20 years away from actually being old. They are like right in the middle of their life. So a 40 years old saying I'm too old for this doesn't make sense. We have professional athletes that are 40 years old. We have people who are fighting. They are, I don't know, playing sometimes soccer. They are swimming, they're running, they're doing a lot of things at 40 years old, but they created this excuse in the working environment that they were too old for that, and there is no scientific base to prove that. What science talks about learning is that unless you have dementia, Parkinson or Alzheimer, you can learn forever. You can be 70 years old and still learn. Maybe it will take a bit longer, but you will learn. You can learn a new language, you can learn a new skill, you can learn new tricks. And when we're talking about what we need to use for work in the computer, we are not talking about anything too sophisticated. I'm not talking about programming. I'm talking about simple everyday tasks that we all do in our computers. They simply refused to learn because they didn't want to. They didn't feel like it. And they made us believe that they were not doing that out of laziness, that they were not simply dumb sometimes with a low IQ. They made us believe that they were not learning because they were too old for that. And that's one of the biggest lies. And what is the problem with this lie? Well, it's very simple. Because if they don't do it at work, somebody else has to. So guess what? Generation X have to clean up after boomers. Because boomers refused to learn technology, and Gen X was not old enough to use the same argument, so they had to learn. And not only they have to do their jobs, they also have to do the boomers' job, because they simply decided they wouldn't do it, and they kind of created a bubble around them in the workspace. It's kind of like, oh, okay, this guy here, he's a boomer, technology is too hard for him, so okay, let's pretend it's all right, he's just going to do 50% of his work, other people are going to help him, but he's gonna get paid as much as the other ones. And sometimes they are actually better paid because they have been around longer and they got different deals when they were hired. They were hired in a different moment. And also another thing about boomers, they usually don't have too much qualification. A lot of boomers, they have studied like half of what other people have studied, and they get paid double because simply they got a different market, and nobody's going to reduce what they have been getting paid for the last decades. So they just keep getting paid a lot for doing too little. So not only they receive more, they also have other people doing half of their jobs just because they were lazy to learn technology. I'm a digital marketer, and one of the biggest names we have in digital marketing is Jeff Walker. Jeff Walker is more than 60. I don't know exactly how old he is, but I'm betting something around 65. And he learned everything. He learned the digital marketing, he learned how to use all the tools, and he is one of the best brains we have in marketing nowadays. Also, a lot of book writers, a lot of other digital marketing personalities, they are over 60 years old, and they still teach us a lot. They still doing a lot, but the average boomer was too lazy to do it. So they created all those excuses, and we all bought it. And as I said, it was not only about the technology, they also created the lie that they lived harsher times than we did. I'm not a Gen Z, I'm a millennial, and they love saying that Gen Z is soft. Gen Z doesn't know the struggle. But the truth is, they also don't. Silent generation, they had it hard. Silent generation had a very difficult upbringing. They lived tougher times, they lived the Great War, they lived the Depression in America, Spanish flu, all those kind of things. Most of them didn't have basic education at school because they had to start working at 8, 9 years old. But boomers know. They finished high school. Lots of them went to college. Their parents, sometimes they had 5 kids at home to raise. Boomers had 2 or 3. Boomers had it much easier than silent. And here's the funny thing, silents, they are tough. They had it really hard, and they don't complain about it. My grandfather, he worked his ass off. For 24 years, he didn't go on vacation because he had 4 kids at home to raise. And instead of going on vacation, he would just work to get another paycheck for 24 years. And he was not working a 9 to 5 in an office, he was doing labor. And it was not 9 to 5, he used to leave home 6 a.m. and come back home 10 p.m. And not only from Monday to Friday, it was Monday to Saturday, and sometimes he would do part-time work on Sunday. And I've never seen my grandpa, who is 88 years old, complaining about it. My grandmother, his wife, well, she was cleaning all the kids, cooking every day, cleaning the home, making sure everything was happening well, going to the doctor's office, getting the medical attention that the kids needed, everything. And she also never complained about it. But when you see the boomers, who had 5 times easier than their parents, they complain all the time. Also, another thing that they love saying is that they are winners, self-made. That's actually a joke, because it's the first generation who kind of competes against their own kids. Because when the silents were working their asses off in the 40s, 50s and 60s, they were not doing that because it was fun. They were doing that for their kids. So when they say that they had no help, that's a lie, because his parents working 50, 60, 70 hours a week, it was all about helping their kids. So yes, they were helped a lot. They were much more helped than the next generations were. And the boomers got better jobs than their parents, comfortable jobs, working in an office, or also working in an industry, but not in a difficult environment like their parents did. Boomers worked less hours and got paid more. Boomers bought beautiful houses for 10% of the price that we would buy now. And I'm not forgetting about inflation. I'm comparing salary with the houses. A few generations ago, people could save for 1 year and buy a house. The average worker now can't do nothing with 1 year of savings. Buying a house nowadays is basically impossible. And this is not a video about somebody who's whining or anything, because I have a very good life. I live anywhere I want, I go anywhere I want, I have my own business, I have no boss. I made it to financial top of my country, so I have nothing to complain. I'm happy about my life. This is not about somebody complaining about how unfair life is. This is basically an analysis. You know, I like to look around and take my conclusions, observe, learn, and then explain to people. I've made a video with this same topic to my Brazilian audience in another channel that I have in Portuguese, and since people liked a lot, I said let's bring to the one in English as well. So when I talk about how selfish and narcissists boomers can be, I think this last argument proves it all. That they swear that they had everything through their own effort, while no, everything they had was because their parents did the best they could to give them a better life. And now, when they became parents, it was time to do the same for their kids. And instead of doing the best they could to their kids, they started using arguments such as, don't be lazy, work more than the others, everything I had I got on my own, you have to do the same, go out there, struggle and find your own way. That's completely wrong, because it was actually their time to help. I don't have kids, I don't think I will, but if I had, and I had some spare money, of course I would put a considerable amount of that money in my kid's future. Of course I would help the kid out in the first business, you know, at least helping the kid to rent the space to open the business. Because when you do it, even if you become a partner, you know, I'm not saying that you gotta do a handout, but if you have some money on the bank, your kid needs to start a business, give them the money and get 10-20% of the business. I don't think this is a problem. It's going to be good to everyone. It's like, okay, you want to invest on my career? All right, I can give you 20% of that. Because just by giving this small investment, you already save 4 or 5 years of your kid's life. Because when you have to start from zero, it takes a very long time. So if there is a way that somebody can help you, I don't know, saving 2 or 3 years of your life, it's excellent. So it would be a great deal to trade that for 20% of the profits. But this is how they are. They create lies. They pretend they are extremely tough when they are not. They pretend they had all hard when growing up, and they didn't. They even pretend they are conservatives. They are not. Boomers didn't wait to marry. They did it before. Boomers started listening to promiscuous songs, and now that those songs got even more offensive, now they are complaining, but they were the first ones who started that. Now they complain that people have a very big body count and people are not willing to wait for marriage, but they also didn't. The difference is that they didn't fool around as much as millennials, but they were the one who started. So everything that is going off nowadays, all the woke agenda, marriages not working, it all started with them. What they are seeing right now and they complain so much about, it's just the progress of what they started 30, 40, 50 years ago. And also, they say that younger people are soft, but who raised the younger people? Who are their parents? Exactly, boomers. So they are basically criticizing the generation that they raised. So if you want to be radical about it, you can even say that everything that is going wrong nowadays, or at least 90% of that, you can associate that to boomers. And I say that without being afraid of being lying, because that's the conclusion that I've taken. A lot of what's going wrong nowadays, it's on the boomers. They started, and now we are seeing the consequences. But since they are narcissists, since they believe they know everything and they are better than everyone, they are going to blame other generations for their own mistakes. And they are going to keep pretending that for certain things they are too old for that. Well, if you are too old to learn new tricks at work, why don't you retire and give Gen X the jobs that they have been fighting for the last decades? Because Gen X people, they are balding, they are with white hair, and they still not in the top of most companies, because boomers simply don't want to retire. So you have to make a decision. If you are too old to learn new tricks, you are too old to work. And if you are too old to work, you gotta retire. That's what happens in MMA. Let's say that you are a 42 years old fighter and you start to realize that you are getting too old to fight. What are they going to do? Are they going to create some kind of bubble, some special rules for you? Are they going to, I don't know, when a 40 years old fighter fights a guy who's 25, the 25 years old guy can't punch his face, can only punch the body because the guy is older? No, it doesn't happen. It's full force all the time. So you either go there and fight, or you go home and retire. So why is that different in the workforce? Why are people accepting older people refusing to learn the most basic stuff, using the age as a problem? Again, if your age is a problem to learn, why should we have you in the company? If you think you're too old for new stuff, just retire. But we all know they are not too old for that. It's just one more of the lots of lies they have always told us, and we just believed and accepted. When it's convenient, they're gonna say they're young. But when it's convenient to say they're old, they will. Double standards. And, well, what else could we expect from boomers? That's their generation. So don't believe anything they say.